Hello student, today I am going to teach you about the infectious disease of the heart like pericarditis, myocarditis, infective endocarditis and tumor of the heart. So first of all the pericarditis. So what is pericardium? So pericardium, it is the fibrous sac surrounding heart. It is a dense network of the collagen fibers. The pericardium, it is a serous membrane, two continuous layers separated by a small amount of fluid that lubricate the pericardial layer. Usually about the 10 to 20 ml stock-color pericardial fluid uh, are found in the pericardial layer. Layers are called visceral layer and parietal pericardial layer. The visceral layer is the inner layer that is also called epicardium, and parietal layer is continuous with the diaphragm and outer wall of the great heart. So pericarditis is the inflammation of the pericardium, often with fluid accumulation. Pericarditis may be caused by many disorders like infection, myocardial infarction, trauma, tumors, metabolic disorders, but it is often is idiopathic. Symptoms include chest pain or tightness in the chest and often aroused by the deep breathing. Now the etiology of pericardial disease. So there is a list of the etiology of pericardial disease: viral infection, purulent pericarditis, tuberculosis, mediastinal radiation, myocardial infarction, cardiac surgery, trauma, cardiac procedures, drugs and toxins, metabolic disorders, malignancy like carcinoma of the breast, lungs, Hodgkin's lymphoma, mesothelioma, collagen vascular disease, or the idiopathic. Now the frequency or the incidence of the etiology, the neoplastic occurs in 35% of the cases, immune mediated is 23% of the cases, viral 21%, bacterial 6%, uremia and 6% cases of the patient, tuberculosis 4%, and idiopathic 4%. So the morphological classification of acute pericarditis may be the serous, fibrinous, purulent, hemorrhagic, KGS, and chronic pericarditis. The serous pericarditis most commonly associated with the SLE patient, scleroderma, tumors, and uremia. Fibrinous pericarditis associated with myocardial infarction, uremia, radiation, rheumatic fever, SLE, or the open breast, open heart surgery. Purulent pericarditis, either the infected bacterial or the fungal infection. Hemorrhagic pericarditis like malignancy and tuberculosis, KGS in tuberculous pericarditis, and chronic with the adhesive and constructive pericarditis. The pericarditis may be the acute, subacute, and chronic. So now the clinical presentation of the pericarditis. So one is the chest pain. The chest pain, sudden onset of the chest pain over the anterior chest wall, sharp and pleuritic in nature, and it is improved by the leaning forward. Radius commonly to the trapezius muscles. Pericardial friction rub may be heard by the stethoscope in ECG. Finding depend upon the stage of the pericarditis. Two of three needed to make the diagnosis along with or without pericardial effusion. So now come to the acute pericarditis. Develops quickly, causing inflammation of the pericardial sac and often a pericardial effusion. Inflammation can extend to the epicardial myocardium, that is known as myopericarditis. So now come to the serous pericarditis, that is a type of acute pericarditis. So in the serous pericarditis usually consists of 50 to 200 ml of slowly accumulating exudates and characterized by non-bacterial involvement including rheumatic fever, systemic lupus erythematosus, tumors, uremia, and primary viral infection, mainly the cockaxia. Microscopically, there is a scant epicardial or pericardial acute and chronic inflammatory infiltrates. Now the fibrinous and serofibrinous pericarditis. It is the most common clinical form seen in myocardial infarction with a pericardial friction valve. The most common causes of this fibrinous or serofibrinous pericarditis is acute myocardial infarction, Dressler syndrome, uremia, chest radiation, rheumatic fever, SLE, rheumatoid heart disease, trauma, and routine cardiac surgery. Morphologically may be dry or yellow, thick and cloudy fluid deposition between the parietal and visceral layer of the pericardium. Loud pericardial friction valve heard by the stethoscope and exudate may be completely resolved or be organized, causing a adhesive pericarditis. This is a diagram or the morphological gross picture of the acute pericarditis. So here so there is a saggy coat of fibers covering the surface of the heart in the acute pericarditis. Purulent or suppurative pericarditis. So it occurs due to the bacteria, fungus or parasitic infection. Infection reaches by direct extension or by the hematogenous or lymphatic route from neighboring area of the infection like pneumonia, empyema, lung abscess, subphrenic abscess, liver abscess or during the cardiotomy. Now the hemorrhagic pericarditis. The hemorrhagic pericarditis is composed of exudate of blood admixed with fibrinous to suppurative effusion and most commonly it follows the cardiac surgery or is associated with tuberculosis or the malignancy. It usually organized with or without calcification. Now the caseous pericarditis. So caseous pericarditis occur usually due to the tuberculous infection by direct extension from the neighboring lymph nodes or less commonly by the mycotic infection. This type of most frequently cause fibrocalcific constructive pericarditis. So now come to the subacute pericarditis occur within weeks to months of inciting events, and chronic pericarditis is defined as pericarditis persisting more than 6 months. Now come to the chronic pericarditis. The chronic pericarditis may be the flowing types. One is the adhesive pericarditis and constructive pericarditis. So chronic pericarditis with adhesion between the parietal and visceral pericardium, most commonly seen in rheumatic heart disease and less commonly may be due to the infection by the pyogenic bacteria, tuberculosis, etc. In some cases, the cause is unknown. Mediastinal pericarditis. The pericardial sac obliterated due to the adhesion between two layers of pericardium as well as between parietal pericardium and surrounding mediastinal structure, chest wall and the diaphragm. The heart thus contracts against all the surrounding attached structure leading to hypertrophy and dilation of the heart. Now the constructive pericarditis. So in constructive pericarditis, there is a mild thickening of the parietal pericardium with less involvement of visceral pericardium, causing constriction of the great vessels entering the and leaving the heart. Pericardial space obliterated by a dense fibrous tissue which is often calcified. Cardiac hypertrophy and dilation cannot occur because of the dense enclosing scar and the heart becomes smaller. Tuberculosis is the most common cause of constructive. Now the cardiac tamponade. The cardiac tamponade occurs when a large pericardial effusion impairs the cardiac filling, leading to low cardiac output and sometimes shock and death of the patient. If fluid, usually blood, accumulates rapidly, even a small amount, that is 150 ml, may cause tamponade because the pericardium cannot stretch quickly enough to accommodate it. Now come to the myocarditis. So myocarditis, it is the acute non-specific myocarditis, usually produces rapid onset of fever, palpitation and arrhythmia with cardiac failure and a high risk of sudden death. Pericarditis may or may not be present. Acute myocarditis is not an entity recognized by macroscopic examination alone. So the myocarditis chiefly it is a microbial in origin like Coxsackie virus A, B, CMV, HIV, Trypanosoma cruzi, Chagas disease occurs in 80% of the cases. Trichinosis, toxoplasmosis, Lyme's disease, diphtheria, some immune mediated like post-viral infection, rheumatic disease, SLE, and drug hypersensitivity like alpha methyl dopa or sulfide drug. So these are the different etiological agents that may cause the myocarditis. This is the diagram. Here is the diagram that show the lymphocyte infiltrates are the usual pattern of the all myocarditis, but eosinophils, giant cells, and even trypanosoma can be seen occasionally. So this is the histopathological picture of the myocarditis. Other myocarditis may occur due to the drugs like adriamycin, cyclophosphamide, catecholamine, amyloid, or in systemic or primary cardiac involvement, amyloid aging, hemochromatosis, and both hyper and hypothyroidism involvement. The clinicopathological features of myocarditis is self-limiting, mild pleuritic chest pain, cardiac failure, and endomyocardial biopsy may lead to lymphocytic infiltration and mitotic necrosis in histopathological examination. Now come to the cardiac tumors. Now the tumors of the heart. So primary tumor of the heart are rare. Metastatic tumors to the heart occur in about 5% of the patient dying of the cancer. The most common primary tumors are predominantly benign in nature, and benign tumor account for 80 to 90% of the primary tumor of the heart. So the classification of the cardiac tumors: primary cardiac tumors may be benign or malignant, and secondary cardiac tumors like benign and malignant. In general, the prevalence of primary tumor is less than 3% in per 10,000 biopsy, and over 3-4% are the benign. In secondary, the secondary cardiac tumors 20 to 40 times more common than the primary and present in 20% of the patient dying of the malignancy. Now the benign cardiac tumors, benign primary cardiac tumors are myxoma, papillary fibroelastoma, fibroma, lipoma, and rhabdomyoma. The most common primary tumor of the heart are myxoma, fibroma, lipoma, papillary fibroelastoma, rhabdomyoma, angiosarcoma, and other sarcoma. Now the benign primary cardiac tumors, myxoma. So myxoma is the most common primary cardiac tumor, occur in over 35 years of the age. 75% of the myxoma lies in the left atrium near the fossa ovalis, and 15% occur in right atrium, and 5-10% in the left ventricle, and 5% occur in multiple sites. So these are the different locations of the myxoma. 10% have a familial cardiac myxoma syndrome known as the Carnes syndrome, autosomal dominant transmission, multiple cardiac, and often extracardiac like ischemia, myxoma, spotty pigmentation, and endocrine overactivity occur. Genes like PRKA1 on chromosome 70 that encodes a regulatory subunits of cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase A, possibly a tumor suppressor gene, is mutated in about half of the known carnic complex kind rates while most of the other candidates have abnormality in the locus 2T16. So these are the genetic or the pathophysiology of the myxoma. Now the myxoma on the gross examination typically pedunculated, gelatinous in consistency and pliable in nature. Histologically, there is a copious mucopolysaccharide stroma and scattered solitary and clustered polygonal cells. So this is the gross picture of the myxoma that involve in the left atrium. So here you see the gross picture of the myxoma. So grossly, the large pedunculated region extending into the mitral valve orifice, gelatinous in appearance, and in the figure B, there is a microscopic appearance with abundant amorphous extracellular matrix in which there is a scattered collection of myxoma cells or the polygonal cells in various grouping. So these are the gross and histopathological picture of the myxoma. Now come to the rhabdomyoma. So rhabdomyoma, most frequently primary tumor that occurred in infants and children, discovered in the first year of life because of the obstruction of the valvular orifice or the cardiac chamber. Rhabdomyoma may be due to the defect in the apoptosis during developmental cardiac remodeling. Grossly, it is a small gray-white myocardial masses up to several centimeters in diameter located on either the left or right side of the heart and protruding into the ventricular chambers. Microscopically, there is a mixed population of cells. The most characteristic of the cells are these are large, rounded, or the polygonal cells containing numerous glycogen-laden vacuoles separated by a strand of cytoplasm running from the plasma membrane to the more or less centrally located nucleus, so-called spider cells. These cells can be shown to have myofibrils. Now the secondary or metastatic tumor to the heart. So this secondary is the most frequent tumor involving the heart, as metastases occur from the carcinoma of the lungs and breast, melanoma, leukemia, and lymphoma. So metastatic spread like retrograde lymphatic extension is the most common carcinoma, hematogenous, seeding, many tumors, direct contiguous extension like primary carcinoma of the lung, breast, or esophagus, or the direct contiguous venous extension like the tumor of the kidney or liver, and clinical symptoms are associated with pericardial spread by either a pericardial effusion that causes a cardiac tamponade or by tumor bulk that is sufficient to directly restrict the cardiac filling. So this is all about